You don't just live in your home, you live in your neighborhood as well. So when you're shopping for a home, you want to know as much about the area around it as possible. Luckily, Homes.com has got you covered. Each listing features a comprehensive neighborhood guide from local experts. Everything you'd ever want to know about a neighborhood, including the number of homes for sale, transportation, local amenities, cultural attractions, unique qualities, and even things like median lot size and a noise score. Homes.com. We've done your homework.
We just hopped on this Zoom call like 5 minutes ago. We're already cooking with gas on this week's episode of the show before the show. I got a new laptop from the good folks at MiLB IT. It's functioning, and the microphone that I used for many an episode of the show before the show is actually working on this laptop, and it sounds good. We just had a great show prep segment in which we discussed in depth a segment that we've got coming up here in just a little bit that I'm very excited to dive into. And with that, we welcome you into this week's episode of the show before the show. My name is Tyler Mon, your friendly neighborhood host of the official podcast of Minor League Baseball, along with my two other friendly neighborhood hosts in a very different neighborhood. In New York City, Samuel Dykstra, Benjamin Hill. Fellas, it's good to see you. You're both standing this week? Are you standing?
We are standing. There's no real reason for this, but there is a chair, and I guess we could procure another chair, but it's just we're bringing standing energy.
I think we should do like one sitting, one standing, so I can like only see the top of one of your heads, and the other's just like awkwardly standing off camera. I think that'd be good for our video segments that we push out on social media. What's going on? How's things?
Things are good. It's good to be back with you guys this week. And last week I got to record my podcast segment with Josh Jackson on a bench in the middle of Portland, Maine, in the middle of the night.
Which was
it
very
was
cool.
A little bit of a throwback to Ben when you and I and Kelsey Hennigan recorded one from the pier at Coney Island.
Yeah.
We make a habit of recording podcast segments in the middle of cities around 11 o'clock at night because that's when games get out and we don't want to be locked into a ballpark.
Josh and I did that at spring training once a few years ago also, and it is definitely like you're just standing there holding the phone. Like, it's a little weird. Anybody walking by has no idea what's going on.
Yeah, we did have to pause it a few times. I don't know if that came across in the edit that I sent you, Tyler, but I'm like,
No,
somebody's about to walk past us, and it's not like we're having a real conversation. We're having a podcast conversation, which is a little bit different. But no, it was great to see Josh. It was great to be in Portland. Thought that episode came together really nicely, and it's nice to be back with you guys.
Good to have you back. Ben, what's going on with you? How's Harry these days? We haven't checked in on Harry in recent months.
Harry's doing well.
Good.
Yeah, he's 3. He's been 3 for a couple months. He loves Coney Island.
Just like Sam Dykstra.
Yeah, just like Sam Dykstra, just like me.
I was going to say, and his actual father, Benjamin Hill.
Yeah.
And that guy who got
actual father.
No, I just mean like the person who like is influencing his daily life. Like,
in case there were questions or confusion, his actual father, Benjamin Hill. And just like the guy who got naked on that episode of Seinfeld on the subway when Jerry was going out to Coney Island, who also played the dad on those Saved by the Bell episodes when they were like working at a resort in Hawaii. Anyway, that doesn't matter. I'm sure that actor has a name, but I don't need to dive into it. Well, it's good to be back with you guys on this week's episode of the show before the show, and we have so much to get to. First off, wherever you found us, you can get in touch with us, podcast@milb.com, and we will have something fun for you to get in touch with us about coming up in a couple of segments. We will get to that here in just a little while, but your questions, your thoughts, your comments, everything else that you would like to know about the world of minor league baseball, prospects, everything else, shoot us an email, get in touch, podcast@milb.com. And let's dive into it. We are in the final throes of the month of May. And for some reason this week, like 100 teams decided like we got to drop an alternate identity. 4 teams yesterday alone, Ben? 4 teams? Was this all on the same day? This is a chaotic kickoff to a summer of alternate identities.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we saw a lot unveiled in the offseason, but then they continue to trickle out throughout the season. And yesterday, recording this on Thursday, May 30th, yesterday, Wednesday, May 29th, which is also my dad's birthday. So happy belated birthday to Greg Hill, turning 74 years old.
Happy birthday, Greg.
Podcast, yeah. On my dad's birthday, Wednesday, May 29th, I think it was just a confluence that we had all these alternate identities. We did have 4 come out yesterday, in Tulsa, in Lehigh Valley, in Winston-Salem, and also in Rancho Cucamonga. And we will get to that one more in depth later with our guest on this week's podcast. But let's break down the other 3 real quick. Starting with, where do we start? We start with Tulsa. Tulsa Drillers. They have an annual 918 weekend, which is their area code. So like they like to suit up in a alternate identity. I believe that previous 918 weekends have been the Noodlers, Noodler, which is dedicated to catching catfish with your bare hands. Apparently people like to do that in the greater Tulsa area. Last year they did the Tulsa Sound alternate identity, riffing on that kind of swampy blues rock personified by, well, quite a few musicians, but the one that I can remember off the top of my head, Leon Russell, and their Tulsa Sound alternate identity had a Leon Russell looking character as the logo. And now we have the River Rafters, which is referencing, the Raft Racers. Thank you, Sam. Sam's silently pointing as I say the wrong thing. The Raft Racers. And that is because Tulsa, going back to 1973, has an annual raft race, which, quote, as Tulsans watched homemade constructed rafts float down the Arkansas River in what would soon become a time-honored Tulsa Labor Day tradition. At its peak, the event drew more than 600 rafts carrying 4,500 racers, while 150,000 spectators lined the banks of the river between Sand Springs and Tulsa. Maybe some of those spectators were in their spare time noodling and trying to catch catfish with their bare hands. But regardless,
They just got caught off guard by all the rafts. Like, wait a minute, what's this? But all of these activities would form a terrific alternate identity for future minor league baseball teams.
yes, I mean, why not? I mean, why not celebrate specifically this raft race? So they're going to be the Raft Racers for their 918 weekend, taking place August 14th to 18th. The logos were designed by Brandiose, and apparently this raft race is being revitalized. I am not clear of the full history of it, but it appears the event fell into disarray for a while, and it's revitalized back and hopefully bigger than ever. The logo has a man in a raft wearing a life jacket, looking pretty awkward with his arms and legs protruding from the raft.
Well, the raft is a cooler.
Oh, and the raft is a cooler. You're right, Sam.
Yeah.
It is not even a raft. It is a beverage cooler. And he is paddling down the water in this improvised raft, which is actually a beverage cooler. I mean, we've seen this kind of thing in minor league baseball. We have the Great Lakes Pontooners debut this year, somewhat similar. A salute to the pleasure boats popular in that region. But the one that came to my mind, because it's also in the Texas League, the Wichita Wind Surge have the turbo tubs, and that's based on an idiosyncratic river race, tub race that they have in Wichita. And so when I saw this one announced, I was like, well, this is like the turbo tubs. And I was hoping that Tulsa would be playing Wichita during this set of games so that Wichita could play as the turbo tubs. But alas, it is not to be. But now the Texas League is home to 2 teams that don't play in Texas who also have local idiosyncratic vessel racing themed alternate identities. Yeah, however you want to put it.
All right, now here's the question. Would it be harder to race in a cooler or in a tub? I think there's not a lot of space in that cooler. I feel like that cooler would be very difficult. And it's probably it's not like a nice cooler. Like a Yeti would be too heavy. It would not a sponsor. Could be. Hit us up, podcast@MiLB.com. I feel like those would be too heavy. That would just sink. So you're in one of those store brand, just plastic coolers that seems like it'd be really uncomfortable. I don't think I would. I wouldn't excel in a race like that.
Nor would I, but we are not Tulsans, and we are made of less hardy stock.
That is true. That is very true. Okay, so Tulsa on the board. with the Raft Racers, complete with a life vest looking jersey. The Tulsa tweet was, quote, "Safety's always first, but style is forever," as the jersey looks like a safety vest. All right, Ben, let's swing a little bit east before we go north. Our conversation this week is going to be about an alternate identity for a team way out west in the California League. But let's go to the Winston-Salem Dash, who have a new one. The Winston-Salem Dash, this is not something that I necessarily would have just immediately thought like, oh yeah, that's Winston-Salem. But tell us about the Winston-Salem Italian Beef. Not a thing that I thought was like a Winston-Salem delicacy, but these are all the things we learn in minor league baseball.
Yeah, well, Winston-Salem's going all in on the alternate identities. They had Hype Hens released during the offseason, and oh boy, what was the other one they had? I will find it in a moment. But this is their third alternate identity of 2024, Italian Beef. One obvious connection you have with this is that Winston-Salem there in North Carolina, they are a Chicago White Sox affiliate. And of course, these Italian beef sandwiches are a big part of Chicago and Chicago's culinary scene. So it's a salute to the parent club. Also, I do remember now Winston-Salem's other alternate identity, Tobacco Beetles.
Tobacco Beetles.
The Tobacco Beetles. So
driving around in that sweet old Model T or whatever it is in that logo.
Exactly. So they have Tobacco Beetles, Hype Hens, and now Italian Beef. The logo featuring a very beefy bull who looks almost satanic. He's all red, those horns, the top of the horns are red as if they've been dipped in blood. I'm probably looking at this too darkly, but
well, it reminds me of the Chicago Bull.
Yeah, it does look like
ways.
the Chicago Bull, A, but B, Ben, this is another reference that you'll appreciate, much like last week when we put Nate McClouth's name in place of Mr. Plow in the Simpsons thing. He looks like, when Snake on The Simpsons gets like a hair transplant and they put his hair on Homer's scalp and then Homer turns into like evil Homer. That's what this bull reminds me of. This bull, like if you he's got like a weird little gray flowing, like spiky, I don't know. It's not a mohawk. I don't know what that thing would be called, but it's like if you took that and his tank top and his chain and just slapped them on anybody else, they'd just be like the evil version of themselves, like that Simpsons episode.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. So we don't know this bull's true intent, and we might be stereotyping his personality based on how he looks there. There might not
be. He's a nice bull. I don't know.
Yeah, he could be a very nice bull, but it's Italian beef, and the word mark is kind of like an FDA stamp. Italian beef, certified fresh. That's my FDA word mark.
Thank you for doing that on an audio podcast. Yeah. That was great.
Yes. That is the right.
Our listeners effect. At home, thank you.
Everybody who works at the FDA has to go.
I'm a natural born Foley artist, is really what I am. And so then in addition to them being a Chicago White Sox affiliate, the team says, after the viral nine inning challenge where Dash Prez Brian DeAngelis attempted to eat 9 Italian beef sandwiches, the Dash decided to bring a little of the South Side to Winston-Salem. And I missed this viral challenge, and I guess it went viral. They said it was a viral challenge. But yeah, you had the team president try to eat 9 roast beef sandwiches in a 9-inning game. He failed. Therefore, he will serve as the bat boy when the Winston-Salem Dash play as the Beef later this season on July 19th. So there's a connection too. The team president tried to eat 9 Italian beef sandwiches, failed. And what other recourse is there after that than to play as the Italian Beef? I mean, I can't think of any other option they could have had. So they're going to be the Beef. And also, I remember when they unveiled the Hype Hens identity, they said it was due to the viral success of like a chicken dance party they had at the ballpark. And I was like, I missed that viral thing too. So I'm sorry, Winston-Salem, your viral moments are eluding me at the moment, but I'll get caught up on all of them. And I'll be visiting Winston-Salem actually in July, not for Italian Beef Night, but later in July. And I'm looking forward to get back there because I've been to every minor league ballpark, but of all those ballparks, the one that I've not been to in the largest amount of time is Winston-Salem, which is what, Truist Field. It's hard to keep track of these corporate names.
Yes, I believe
Truist,
you are correct.
Truist Stadium. So looking forward to being back there. And hey, maybe it'll be a viral moment when I'm in the ballpark. I hope so.
Okay, so from Winston-Salem, we now go north into Ben's home state of Pennsylvania and the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, who are always good for some fantastic alternate work. Lehigh Valley's got a new identity of its own, and one that I think if I had looked at the identity as it's written on the jersey, I would have mispronounced it. But I want to go into it, and then I just want to point out what I would have, at first glance, what I read in my head.
I can guess what you read in your head, but it is Lehigh Valley Shoofly Pie. And, well, the Iron Pigs do more alternate identities than pretty much any minor league team. I don't have an official count, but I'm pretty sure they are the long-running alternate identity leaders. You know, they've done a salute to Philadelphia alternate identity for years, which has included the cheesesteaks and the Wooder ice, you know, pronounced and spelled Wooder, as they do in Philadelphia, or at least as some people do. They had the hoagies, but they also have salutes to Lehigh Valley, and these are food related as well. I was at one of those salutes last season when they played as the Scrapple, you know, the meat byproduct fried mush, which is actually, I think, pretty good, honestly. And they've also did the, I never pronounce it right, and Lehigh Valley listeners, send me an email when I mispronounce it again, but another alternate identity they've done as a salute to Lehigh Valley is Fastnjat.
The Fosnots?
Fosnots, yes.
Yeah.
A Pennsylvania Dutch style donut. And here again, a Pennsylvania Dutch tradition coming this year, July 13th, Shoofly Pie. A Pennsylvania treat. I have had that in the past in my pre-gluten-free days in the Dutch country in the Lehigh Valley area. I think I was somewhere near Lancaster. Memories are hazy, but it is a traditional dessert in that region, heavy on the molasses. Why it's called Shoofly Pie, I don't quite know as exactly.
But it is,
yeah, a brown sugar and molasses filling. Big in Pennsylvania Dutch community. And is it entomology or etymology? Both in this case, because we're looking for the word origin as well as the insect
information
therein.
Yeah. So we can just use them. We're saying that we're discussing both topics, and you, the listener, can pick out the accurate term as it applies to each of these things.
Yeah, we've got entomology going, we got etymology, but there is a fly in the logo. And usually, you know, a fly buzzing around food, not something that you're usually looking to celebrate, but because it is called a Shoofly Pie, the logo features a fly buzzing around the pie in question, and as well as a depiction of, what is that? Well, whatever. We will
So here's just a quick thing about this. According to the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, the reason it's called Shoofly Pie is, quote, because of the sticky molasses, flies are naturally drawn to the dessert, so bakers must shoo them away. Shoo fly. It is usually a morning treat or a dessert. It's molasses similar to a crumb cake, often enjoyed with a cup of coffee. It sounds amazing. Two things. One, when I originally looked at the jersey, I was like, Shoofly Pie. I wonder what Shoofly Pie is. It's not Shoofly. Two, the fly itself is wearing like men's Oxford shoes, which I find really funny. If you look at the fly, it's like, where's this fly going after it eats this pie? Does it have like a job interview? What's
well, it's a shoe fly.
It's a shoe fly.
Oh, a shoe fly, man.
It's not SHOE in the name, but the fly has shoes on it. It all ties together. It's very good.
Yeah, and Tyler, what you said related, you know, to where the name come from, that is in the press release, but then it goes further. You know, it's saying it's derived from a brand of molasses, Shoofly molasses, that was used to make the pie originally.
Interesting.
And then also even the name of Shoofly molasses, which the pie may be named for, comes from an interesting tale. That molasses brand was named for a circus animal, Shoofly the boxing mule, who was a mule that was trained to stand upright while wearing boxing gloves on his front hooves, to the delight of spectators. We are deep in American history right now.
Had minor league baseball promotions existed back in the day, that mule absolutely would have made like a minor league ballpark tour. It'd have been like, and now, ladies and gentlemen, Before post-game fireworks, here's Shoofly, the boxing mule, or whatever it was called.
I feel like we need to get an alternate identity to the alternate identity that has the boxing mule for the Shoofly pie.
I think whoever the Iron Pigs are playing on that night should play as the boxing mules. It should be the Shoofly pies against the boxing mules. Can we get that together in the next 2 weeks, whenever they play this game?
Well, I like that idea, the alternate identity to an alternate identity, and just go further down the rabbit hole of all these crazy American stories.
If any team could do it, it's Lehigh Valley, right?
Yeah, they would do it. I was it wasn't you, Sam, I don't think. I was talking to someone about this logo yesterday who pointed out that maybe there's a missed opportunity because in addition to the shoe-wearing Shoofly, there are just two smaller flies depicted buzzing around the fly, and you can see their flight paths. And it could spell out LV in the flight paths, but it doesn't. It looks a little.
Is that LV in cursive?
That looks more like a W.
Yeah, it's an ops. Yeah,
yeah. So a lot to break down here. Boxing mules, molasses brands,
the Shoofly pies.
Flight patterns, delicacies of the Pennsylvania Dutch. Oh boy.
I very much want to try. I want to try a Shoofly pie though, pretty badly now. That sounds amazing. I don't really know the difference between molasses and honey. I know they're slightly different. I know molasses is richer and darker and whatever, but it all sounds amazing to me.
Yeah, molasses is much darker, similar consistency. I don't think molasses is derived from a animal.
It's from bees, right? Isn't it from? Well, I don't want to put out my ignorance. I was going to say, isn't it from trees in some way? Doesn't molasses come from trees?
It comes from sugar cane or sugar beet juice.
So it's a totally trees, right? Totally. Yeah, it's definitely not from trees. I'm not smart. Sap. That's what I'm kidding. All right, you guys. So those are the first three. And the fourth alternate identity is the subject of our interview on this week's episode of the show before the show as well. Ben, let's tee this thing up and then let's dive into it next.
Yeah, the fourth and final alternate identity from a day that will forever be remembered, May 29th, 2024, is the Rancho Cucamonga BBQs. And to talk about that and all things Rancho Cucamonga Quakes is their broadcaster, Mike Lindskog. And we're going to talk to him right now.
When you're worried about underarm sweat and odor, it can be distracting. Like this. Or this. Or even this. It's time to silence those distractions with a spray of powerful Dove Men Plus Care Antiperspirant. Featuring our 72-hour protection and soothing 1/4 moisturizing cream. Because when you forget about your underarms, you can focus on being unforgettable. Dove Men. Forgettable underarms, unforgettable you.
Well, we've been talking a lot about alternate identities on this week's podcast, and one of them was the aforementioned Rancho Cucamonga Quakes, who are going to be on June 8th. They're going to play as the Rancho Cucamonga BBQs. And to talk about that and all things Rancho Cucamonga Quakes, we have their longtime broadcaster, public relations man, all-around great guy, Mike Lindskog. Mike, thanks so much for being here.
Fellas, thanks for having me. That's quite the build-up. I'll try to live up to those expectations. It's a high bar you're setting, Ben.
Yeah, I always set a bar high because I want to give people something to aspire to. You know, I don't want them to feel too comfortable. They have to keep getting better and better as the interview goes on to meet these high.
I'm here for that. I'm here for that.
Yeah, and I know you're up for it. And the BBQs, Rancho Cucamonga through the years is not a team that's done, many alternate identities or gone in this kind of direction. So why BBQs and why now?
Well, it's certainly a long time coming. I think, as you're alluding to, this is not something that we've necessarily delved into within the course of our history here. We've gone all around the league, and there's always some fun alternate identities. I know when I go up to San Jose, and we play the Churros, that's always a welcome sight and a welcome addition to the tummy as well. That's one of my favorites within the league. But we've been working on this concept for a number of years, and we tested out a number of different names. And obviously, with the Q being able to be integrated as BBQs and Quakes as well, with our logo being just as recognizable as it is within not only our community but across minor league baseball. BBQs was something that jumped off the page at us. Again, not to be confused with the barbecues, but the BBQs, baseball Quakes. There's some play there, and it's just a fun identity. And I think that, everybody around Southern California and certainly around the country at this time of year can start to relate to, the excitement and the passion and the friendship that a good BBQ brings to the table.
Yeah, and I was looking at the press release or the team website when this came out, and it was specifically a salute to California barbecues, and I understand they're California or BBQs in the sense that you're a California-based team. But would you say there's any specific differences regarding a California BBQ or something that speaks to the uniqueness of doing it in California in terms of the food that might be on offer, or just any cultural differences there?
Well, I think that if you were to ask locals around here, instead of maybe dogs and burgers in the traditional BBQ sense, there's a fair amount of carne asada that finds its way onto the grill here within our local community, and it's just a nod to the local atmosphere here. It's obviously such a thing in Southern California, and we're a ballpark, we're a baseball team, so dogs and burgers are close to our edible hearts. And but don't forget about the pollo and the carne asada on the grill as well. That tastes mighty fine.
Yeah, and you were saying something like this was a long time coming, and when you guys were coming up with ideas for what an alternate identity could be, you mentioned the importance of having the Q in there. I mean, you guys are the Quakes. There aren't many teams in any sport that begins with the letter Q. So having that included, how important was that? And as you guys were tossing around ideas, like, let's try to keep it Q based.
Yeah, I don't think the concept of trying to keep it Q based was quite where we led off with. But as that name kind of floated, and you recognized that you could keep it Q based, you had that opportunity. It became more and more important as it suddenly became just so obvious. There were lots of things synonymous with California, whether it's avocados and burritos and guacamole, and all those names and concepts were toyed about. I'd say over the last 10 years that this concept has been discussed, and eventually BBQs came up. And it just seems like such an obvious fit. And then, of course, the logo, if you have an opportunity to look at the logo through our website, it's fun. It's a stand-up charcoal grill, little guys swinging a spatula, emblazoned with the logo rather than a baseball bat. So he's going to be a popular little fella, I would bet you, when it comes time to talk about merchandise.
Yeah, and in terms of popularity and how that goes, I mean, what has been the reaction so far, both in Rancho and nationwide? Because I feel like BBQs covers a lot of bases, like you said. This could be something that you guys sell all over the place. It certainly got our attention. But since the announcement yesterday, what have you noticed about the reaction?
Well, it's obviously been very positive, and everybody's upbeat about it, and can't wait to see the unveiling on June the 8th. All that merchandise is going to be sold online, so it'll not just be available for locals, with the exception of the hats. The hats will be an in-store only product, but all the other merchandise is going to be available online, and of course the logo is out there so everybody can kind of see and get pumped up about it. But yeah, I'm excited to see the team wearing the jerseys on June the 8th, and just kind of see what we bring to the table. I'm in favor of piping just regular old charcoal smell into the ballpark, just like maybe, you go into the bathrooms and instead of the air fresheners with a nice lavender, instead you just get like, that Kingsford charcoal smell. So hopefully we'll do it right. And I got all the faith in the world that the fans will respond, and it's going to be fun. I mean, that's again, this is what it's all about, and it's going to be a fun time.
I need to find somebody who can go in store and get me a hat, because the logo is fantastic, and it really, like, I feel so cliche, Mike. I'm not a dad, but I feel like I've gone just full dad with how much I love grilling nowadays. Like, especially
It's
when
not
the
your
weather
bod,
is nice.
it's your grilling, your love for
Exactly.
grilling. It's not the dad bod.
It's not the
Okay.
well, that too. But that's because I eat so much after grilling. But it really is just like the greatest feeling, and it captures such a perfect baseball type of emotion where it's for so many people, the ideal summer night is just like having friends over, grilling out, listening to or watching a baseball game. And it feels like it strikes at that, which is something that, like we live in a very complicated world. I feel like fans gravitate toward these things that, oh, yeah, that makes me feel good. This little smiling grill guy, that makes me feel good. Like there has to have been, you touched a moment ago on some of the reaction, but just the straight positivity of an identity like this feels very cool.
I wish I was able to personally relate to your concept of having family and friends throughout the summer, but I travel with the team on the radio. So
it's not easy as the radio guy.
As you talk about grilling and family and friends during the summer with a baseball game on the radio, that is a foreign concept to me personally. But yes,
you get to be the voice that's on the radio for all the people doing those things, and that's even cooler.
But there's no carne asada for me when you improve your dad bod. So it's I guess I'll just have to take it for what it is. But yes, it is. It just inspires you with that concept. I mean, it's friends and family, and it's good food, and it's Americana. I mean, ball game on the radio or the TV, and of course here in our market with our affiliation, the Dodgers are everything, and the Quakes are so very popular and cherished in our community as well. And so it all builds this fun thing in Rancho that we can hang our hat on and say, yeah, this is going to work. And again, it's so much fun, and it really captures the concept of the friendly family summertime barbecue.
Mike, from the aspect of the logo you touched on a moment ago, there are so many different ways I would imagine that you could go with an identity like BBQs, but to make an anthropomorphic grill is very cool. And you also said, merchandise wise, there are a lot of different ways you could go with it. Now, here's my question. The grill logo is swinging a spatula that has the Quakes Q logo on it. You guys going to be coming up with like some custom spatulas? Because that seems like
yes.
Made to
again,
happen.
I'm still looking up anthropomorphic. Hang on, I got to check that word.
I only know like 3 big words. I had to get one of them.
Right. Well, a point for you on the scale here. Like that's tremendous. Yes, like that spatula. Like, how do you not want one of those? Like that is legit. Like that smells a lot like a gift going out the door, if I'm guessing correctly. So yeah, those spatulas will be available. It's got the Quakes Q, which is also part of the BBQ logo, same thing. And the fact that little guy is swinging the spatula in the logo rather than the old wooden Louisville Slugger. It's pretty cool. But yeah, those spatulas will be available online as well. So rcquakes.com as we get the cheap plug in there.
One thing that you mentioned at the outset is, it's not as though Rancho Cucamonga is rolling out an alternate identity every week, which is something that I really, especially nowadays in minor league baseball, I kind of admire the fact that you want to do something right if you're going to go with an alternate identity. Is this the sort of thing where, depending on how well received it is, you feel like maybe you strike that nerve where you obviously have such a good beat on the community that then the next thing is, okay, well, how do we build off of BBQs? Like what comes next after something like this? Is there the opportunity for maybe we will start doing a little bit more of this?
Maybe. I would say we're very much more traditional, maybe a little conservative as it pertains to that. Do one thing, do it well. The in and out mentality, if you will. Make a good burger and just do that. We had a lot of success with Temblores, which was our Copa identity. This year, again, tried something new. First time that we've ever changed that up with the Chaquetas, and that's been well received. And now we drift into that food identity that so many teams have tackled. And again, it is our first venture there. But I don't know that success with this particular identity is going to breed more names and alternate identities. I would say that we would, if it indeed is as successful as I would hope and as I believe it will be, I would say that we'll just continue to build on that, do it right, do it well, do it the best to our ability, and just be happy with that. And I know, and some teams that works for, some teams in some markets, but I just don't believe that that's our core philosophy. And so we'll do this, and we'll do it to the best that we can. And I know people are going to have fun with it.
Yeah, and Mike, we obviously wanted to have you on to talk about the BBQs, but also because, as we were saying earlier, we have not featured the Quakes too much on this podcast in recent years. I've only been able to visit there once in Rancho Cucamonga. And I think for those listening to this who have not seen the team or who might not be familiar with the Quakes and the kind of organization they are, if you could just give us maybe a brief overview of what are some highlights of going to the games, and what can you expect from the ballpark experience when you go to Rancho Cucamonga to see the Quakes?
You bet. Well, Southern California, it's so beautiful here. We're so lucky. As you approach our ballpark and you're walking up to the main gates, there's palm trees everywhere. It's a city-owned and operated facility, and they are 10 out of 10, or as my little boy says, 11 out of 10, as far as their ability to keep it clean, keep it fresh, keep it just top notch. We did just get a new scoreboard, which was really the only knock against our 10 out of 10 mentality here as far as our ballpark. We got that new scoreboard last year, and it was really the only missing element to just the A-plus ballpark experience. We truly believe, and this does sound cliche, but I mean, we truly believe that the customer service stuff is so important, and we do our best to put on a great show and pay attention to the fans and what they're looking for. And then obviously, the Dodger affiliation plays very well here in Southern California. It's a great time to be a Dodger fan, and of course that was true before Ohtani, and now post Ohtani signing. Just everybody loves the Dodgers around our community. And so, all in all, it's such a great experience. And then Ben, I know your particular favorite element here is Tremor, our mascot. He is one of the most recognized mascots in all of minor league baseball. It's not every day you get to mingle and dance with a 8-foot tall dinosaur looking thing, but he's the man, and he is beloved here within our community. He has a little brother Aftershock, who is playing second fiddle to Tremor, but super important as part of our show as well. And it's just, it's a great experience. And again, for us, affordable family entertainment is number one. And there's so much to do in this California community. Disneyland is an hour away, and you got all the theme parks and what have you. The Angels and the Dodgers are less than an hour away. So it's very competitive in this market. But we feel with, our family structured pricing and the value that we have and the entertainment and the safe nature of our entire environment and ballpark is just great for kids. And, you don't necessarily just want to go to the ballpark and tell your kid, hey, I'll see you in 3 hours when the game's over. But, you feel safe with your little ones walking around here. And it's a proud feeling to know that you're associated with something that's cherished within the community.
Yeah. And you touched on the Dodger affiliation and how important that is to you guys. I was bringing up on Google Maps right now. It's 54 minutes from Dodger Stadium to Rancho Cucamonga. Who knows if that's accurate all the time, during the day or whatever, but with traffic, it's around 54 minutes. And you always think of like guys who have rehabbed with the Quakes because it's so close. And that's an advantage you have that not a lot of minor league teams have, being within an hour's drive of the major league club. How much are you guys tapping into that, and how much interest do you feel like that generates within the fan base when they are seeing somebody like Josue De Paula or Kendall George? These are future guys who are going to be playing just down the 10. I mean, it's going to be a while until they get there, but they are future Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely play up both aspects. I mean, we have such a terrific relationship with the Dodgers. It's been now 13 years. They're the best partner that we could ever ask for with everything that they provide and complement us with. We get those guys. They don't skip over Rancho, which is sometimes the case back in the day where, as an affiliate, you always wondered, oh, is that top prospect going to miss our league due to one reason or the other, because he's too advanced, or because the conditions aren't right here, or because our ballpark isn't any good, or the league is just down, or whatever the case may be. And those are some of the mentalities around the league. But we're very confident with our relationship with the Dodgers. I mean, it's been a tremendous partnership. We've won a couple of Cal League titles, which is obviously important to us. But at the end of the day, we're always competitive. We're always competing for a playoff spot. And in addition, you're not only seeing future Dodgers, as you referenced, Sam, but the fact that the Dodgers feel comfortable enough with our operation and trust us with guys like Clayton Kershaw, who's pitched here 3 times on rehab. We just had Walker Buehler a month ago. Just last week, we had Bobby Miller and Evan Phillips. These are guys that are, all-star caliber players. And in Kershaw's case, greatest of all time, potentially. He's a future Hall of Famer. And the fact that the Dodgers entrust us with, handling their guys, really, it makes me proud as well. It speaks volumes to the trust factor, the fan factor, like everything rolls really well here in Rancho, hopefully like a smoothly operated machine. And, those rehabbing players that come here, they get the fans fired up. And I mean, when you're talking about a ballpark that holds right around 4,000 fans, less than 5,000 anyway, you get a bird's eye view at a Clayton Kershaw or just a month ago, a Walker Buehler, just a real great experience for our fans. And not only that, but you can build it as, future Dodgers and current Dodgers. And we're just really blessed with that, 1 hour commute to Dodger Stadium to be in that position.
Yeah, I'm having a flashback to the one time in 2017 when I visited the Quakes and Adrian Gonzalez was the starting first baseman that night. So that just
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember thinking how cool it was when there were kids standing with the players for the national anthem, and just one kid in Rancho Cucamonga got to stand next to Adrian Gonzalez on a kind of rainy weeknight in Rancho Cucamonga. It was a really cool memory, and I'm glad that just got unearthed from my very cluttered brain. But Mike, I want to talk about you a little bit before we wrap this up. You've seen a lot of California League baseball. I mean, maybe about as much as anybody in the 21st century.
Easy.
Yeah. Longtime voice of the Quakes, but also earlier in your career, you were the voice of the High Desert Mavericks. And since
now we're
team...
going back in the time machine.
Yeah.
Go Mavs.
Yeah, the High Desert Mavericks, they were no longer with us. They played their final season, and I believe was at 2016, I want to say.
2016, you got it.
Yeah. And I would just like, you don't have to go deep into it, but, what was the California League like back at the turn of the 21st century? And what are your memories of the High Desert Mavericks? Just because that is a real blast from the past in the Cal League time machine.
You bet. I did not know that you were going to ask me that question. I am super sentimental regarding my time in the high desert. And of course, it's one of those moments where, you don't cherish it exactly the way it should be appreciated in that moment. And it's one of those things that you reflect years later, and especially now that they just don't even exist. But one of the neatest things these days is fans that can make that connection and realize that, I was their radio broadcaster way back in the day, and they listen to me on the local AM affiliate, and they'll come to a game in Rancho and reminisce about, a player that may have played there and tell me a Mavs story. High Desert was a really unique situation. The ownership group of the Quakes, Brett Sports, Bobby Brett, JB Brett, the Brett brothers, back in the day owned the High Desert Mavericks, and then eventually bought the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes, and then were, under the current rules at the time, needed to sell the Mavericks in order to kind of make it all work. But I worked for the Mavs from 2001 to 2003. It was a different kind of era back then. When the Mavs opened in the early 90s, there was an Air Force base locally within the community, and business was booming and flourishing, and things were great, and the future was bright. And then one day the Air Force base was shuttered, and the community took a substantial blow. And while it obviously affected the community in ways that I'll never be able to understand, it also affected the Mavericks, because the attendance went from, high threes down to, mid 1500s down to 1,000 fans a game, just based on the fact that so many people moved away, and the community, so many businesses shuttered because of the loss of the Air Force Base. So when I was there, it was really going through that time where things were changing for the worse in the community because of the closure of the Air Force Base. But in that moment, I was a younger guy, and my first wife, notice how I said first, we made the best of it in the moment, and learned to appreciate things in the community and value the relationships. And obviously the fans, it was unfortunate. that the fans lost the Mavs to the Carolina League, but in the grand scheme of things, that's how this game works. Sometimes you have to have a facility that's up to speed and meets the standards, and certainly that facility would be nowhere near the standards that MLB currently is imposing within the minor league system when the rules changed in 2021. But my time in high desert is very valued. I often tell stories of how I saw pop-ups that the second baseman would go back on and eventually concede a home run. And, at one point off the bat, the second baseman thought he was going to make that play, and then he realized it was a home run. Like, say that out loud and figure out exactly how hard the wind blew there in high desert. And also that attributed to the fact that they're no longer around, because the wind tunnel that it is, the wind tunnel that Lancaster was, RIP Jethawks, it wasn't necessarily baseball friendly. And in this new era of baseball that we're currently rolling around in with all heavy statistics and analytics and what have you, that wind just throws everything out of whack. And so I understand how, baseball decided to get out of those communities. I understand it. That doesn't make me any less sad about it, though. And that time in high desert specifically is something I'll always cherish.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back on again, maybe sometime in the off season, because I'd love to get into more of these Cal League memories. I only got to visit High Desert once, but it definitely made an impression. Love to hear sometime your thoughts on Bakersfield and Old Sam Lynn Stadium.
Oh, for sure. What's funny? Is for years, of course, the Mavs and the Lancaster Jethawks led the California League and oftentimes led the nation in home runs hit. And, back in the day, I always considered Rancho to be pitcher friendly, calling games at Maverick Stadium and then going down the road to Lancaster. And I was like, oh yeah, the ballpark in Rancho is very neutral. It plays well for the pitchers and so on and so forth. Well, fast forward 20 years and people come into my ballpark now in Rancho and they're like, man, this is such a hitter's haven here.
What
like,
a launching
out
pad
to right field. And it's just ridiculous how much the ball flies here in Rancho. And now I can't argue with them, but my only leg to stand on is, well, back in my day, you should have been in high desert when the second baseman used to go back and concede a home run and balls used to fly out of the Jethawk facility and whatnot. But it's funny how Rancho has now become arguably the most hitter-friendly park in the Cal League. And I mean, if that just doesn't scream old guy, time to retire, like, gee, Ben, give me a push here.
Nah, you still got it for sure. And we'd love to talk more about these memories at some point. But returning to the future, or the present and the near future, Rancho Cucamonga BBQs, they make their on-field debut on June 8th. And Mike Lindskog, the voice of the Quakes, thanks so much for joining us, and I really enjoyed chatting with you.
You bet. If you can't make it out on June 8th, we got the giveaway jersey on August the 2nd. So maybe we can throw one of those on you and Sam and Tyler as well.
Sounds good. Anthropomorphic.
All right. Go Quakes. Go BBQs.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Have you ever covered a carpet stain with a rug? Ignored a leaky faucet? Pretended your half-painted living room is supposed to look that way? Well, you're not alone. We've all got unfinished home projects. Whether it's a door that sticks, or a disorganized closet, or an AC unit that only works half the time. It all matters. You just haven't taken care of it yet. But there's an easier way. Just download the Thumbtack app. You can search for what you need done and find tons of highly rated pros right in your neighborhood. Check prices, reviews, and book a pro right on the spot. Plus, you'll know what to tackle next, because Thumbtack is the app that shows you what to do, who to hire, and when. Pull out your phone, and in just a few taps, say goodbye to all those unfinished home projects, and say hello to caring for your home the easier way. Download Thumbtack and start a project today.
Well, huge thanks to Mike Lindskog for joining us from Rancho Cucamonga. You can check out all of the news and details about the Quakes' new alternate identity at MiLB.com/Rancho-Cucamonga. I don't know. Maybe that's a dash when it comes to HTML code. It's neither here nor there. Ironically, though, Winston-Salem has it in both. All right, you guys, let's move on to a topic that I am very excited to to reintroduce in 2024. And that is a couple of years ago, we designed a fictional minor league team known as the Austin Knights, Nights, that was submitted by a listener of the show before the show. We came up with a fantastic visual identity. The original concept actually was the Austin Knights, Knights. We modified that, made it Knights. We had an amazing logo created by Vince Petafrezzo, one of our graphic designers at MiLB, and it was received so well by all of you. It's taken us a little while to get back to it, but we are once again calling for your submissions to create another fictional team. Sam is like hovering over the microphone. He's chomping at the bit. I want to let him get into it. Let's hear it, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, we're bringing this back. The reason why I'm chomping at the bit is I want to make sure people see me on camera as I explain this. But yeah, bringing back this concept for 2024. We want to do our episode next week in terms of introducing this and talking it over amongst ourselves and trying to come up with this concept. I think it worked really well. It takes listeners a little behind the scenes in terms of like what actually happens in minor league front offices in terms of coming up with a new name, a new logo, what's important to that area, that kind of stuff. So this is all based on what you guys submit to us. So tweet at us, at Sam Dykstra MiLB, at Ben's Biz, at Josh Jackson MiLB. Send your submissions to podcast@milb.com. Anywhere you can reach us. Send us your submissions we'll say by next Tuesday. That'll give us a day to sift through them on Wednesday and then record on Thursday. So try to get those in by the end of the day on Tuesday. A couple rules for your submissions. First off, let's try to avoid places that actually have minor league teams now. We're not trying to rebrand the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs or the St. Paul Saints or whatever team you're thinking of. Even if you're local to that team, you're like, oh, here's an idea for Rancho Cucamonga. We're not going to touch those. So try to keep it to places that don't have minor league teams yet. We did Austin last time. Yes, Austin is right next to Round Rock, but there is no Austin minor league team, so that fit the bill. But we'll expand it a little bit because, Tyler, you were asking about this before we started the show. Can it be fictional? It can be. We'll see if that works, if that makes sense, if that's a really good submission, or if it's something that we really latch on to. We want you guys to be creative. So if there's like a fictional, city, something like Springfield from The Simpsons.
But it can't be the Isotopes.
But it can't be the Isotopes, no.
Yeah.
Something along those lines, like we'll accept them. We're going to try and make this big tent. We want as many submissions as possible. So if you have a good idea for a fictional place, we're all ears. We'll see how it works. And
what about abroad? What if we wanted to go abroad? What if we were like, hey,
you can go
Canada,
abroad.
Canada used to have a lot of minor league teams. Let's go to Canada. Tijuana's right over the border from the United States. Why don't we go there?
As long as they don't have a minor league team right now, they are totally fine.
Yeah, let's go to Medicine Hat.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Medicine Hat. Yeah. Which actually brings up my next parameter here.
Of course. I knew that Medicine Hat would give you the perfect segue.
Yes.
We've done this podcast together for so long. Ben knew that was going to be the perfect segue for Sam.
Well, so
Speaking of
let's
Medicine
not
Hat,
try to do retro team names. Like, don't say, hey, let's bring back the Portland Beavers or some team that may have the Pawtucket Red Sox. Like, if
the Omahogs.
Yeah, it can be. It can be a city that used to have a minor league team name, but come up with a new team name, something that celebrates that culture in that area. That's one thing that we want to really hit on here is something. It's not just like a funny name, right? Like try to do something that is specific to the area, specific to the region. That's the best thing about minor league baseball is that local stories go wide, like us talking about Shoofly pies. Like that's not something we would do on a normal basis, but here we are doing it because a minor league team started that conversation. The Austin Knights fit that bill because we designed a logo that Vince actually put pen to digital paper and made, celebrating the Bat Bridge of Austin and how that's one of the coolest places to go in that place. And also it's a place with fantastic nightlife. So it checked off a lot of boxes. That's what we're going for here. So yeah, get creative, submit it to us on Twitter, through the email address, anywhere you can find us, reply to tweets about the podcast with your ideas. We're all ears. And hopefully next week we'll have something really fun to put together. Is there anything you guys are like requesting of people specifically?
I think that covers it pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, whoever does submit the winning, or whoever we end up going with, we'll have them on the podcast down the line once we have a finished product to get their reaction and feedback from that. The Austin Knights was submitted by a listener named Chad, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was Chad on Twitter, was Ocho Cinco. Was it Chad Miller?
Chad Miller, yes.
Yeah, Chad Miller.
Yes, Chad Miller.
Shout out to Chad Miller, who suggested the Austin Knights, and we did have him on the podcast down the line. So you will get to talk to us. I mean, I know that's intimidating, a little overwhelming, but
They say don't meet your heroes.
exactly. But in addition to celebrities, we're nice people. So we hope to have you on after you submit a great idea for a proposed minor league brand.
I am tremendously excited for this. We had so much fun the last time that we did it, and we got some really, really good submissions. That also was that 2021 that we did that?
I want to say
2022, maybe?
It was
So
2022, and
it's
we
been a little while.
revealed it in early 23.
Okay.
We didn't do it in season last time. We did it during the off season of 2022 into 23.
And
So
just
it
so
is-
we get Chad's actual Twitter handle, it's Mr_Cinco_Ocho.
Yeah.
Just want to give Chad his proper attribution there.
Chad was great. And it was so much fun getting a chance to dive into that. The coolest thing is when a minor league identity is hyper local and hyper creative. It doesn't mean that it has to be wacky. I mean, it's as much as that is where the pendulum has swung in minor league baseball, that doesn't necessarily need to be the case. Still one of my favorite identities in minor league baseball, and obviously I'm partial to it because I worked for them, but I love that the Myrtle Beach Pelicans is just a very classic sports name, but it's local. It refers to something that's present in the area. There's a lot you can do with the branding. So, if there's an animal or a tradition in your area, or even, food stuff, a type of product that is created around a given area, or a certain industry that's always been prevalent. Those are the coolest things, and I'm so excited for this. Now, we can't submit, but, if there happens to be like a Henjamin Bill who sends in a really cool idea for, a town that he's familiar with, or a damn Sykestra. Ooh, geez, I didn't mean to curse. Damuel Sykestra. It's just Sam and a mustache. Then I don't know, maybe we'll take those under advisement. But I am really excited for this because this was one of my favorite things that we've done on the podcast.
Yeah, looking forward to Myler Ton's submission.
He's got a lot of them, believe me.
Myler Ton is back on X, actually. So that's the crazy thing.
That's the opposite of reality. All right, you guys, we are going to step aside for a timeout. We will bring it on back after Josh Jackson swings by with Ghosts of the Miners. I don't know, maybe somebody throws out a cool, could have been a Ghosts of the Miners team idea. And that's coming up next on this week's episode of The Show Before the Show.
There's no distance too far for the perfect trip.
Hi, checking in for...
Or the perfect table.
Hey, where are you?
Coming! And when you get access to Resi Priority Notify with your Amex Platinum card...
Hey, this looks amazing. I'm so glad you made it.
And travel benefits at fine hotels and resorts booked through Amex Travel, it's worth the trip. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you another thrilling edition of Ghosts of the Miners. Now, here's your correspondent and host, Joshua Jackson.
Welcome back to Ghosts of the Miners, in which all of you out there in Radioland must identify the legitimate historical ball club or player hiding amidst the fraudulent pair. One once basked in the sun on fields of green. The others only exist in the shadows of imagination. In the last segment, I asked you which of the following minor league baseball teams did at one time exist. A. The Kentford Blind Bats. B. The Sheffield Cave Sharks. C. The Thetford Mines Miners. You must have a deep intellect if you picked C, the Thetford Mines Miners, the minor league's memorable miners team that saw daylight for only 4 minor seasons in 2 iterations, separated by a major period of time. 2 decades. Representing the asbestos capital of Canada, the Miners coughed up 1 playoff appearance in their inaugural campaign as members of the Provincial League from 1953 to 1955, and were gaspingly desperate in their lone season in the Eastern League, 1975. The Provincial League had a long history, going back to the late 19th century, with that Provincial League coming into and out of prominence over the years. The version of the 1950s was populated with clubs that had working agreements with major league organizations, although the financial picture for the Canadian circuit was chilly. When the Miners arrived in Thetford Mines in the form of the Miners, the team was part of a movement to build the loop back up to 8 clubs after it had contracted to 6 for 52. But the Miners were a miners club of the lowly St. Louis Browns. There was obviously a lot of trouble brewing beneath the surface of that miners arrangement. The Browns moved to Baltimore the next year. For the time being, the team in Thetford Mines stayed put, but they were in last place, 43-85 in 54, failing to land any player on the league's all-star team or see a Miners pitcher come up with a real gem. The next year was slightly better. First baseman Ray Barker slugged 18 homers for Thetford Mines to start his pathway to 4 seasons in the American League, but the Miners' failings were a dead canary for the whole Provincial League. Nobody dug it up for 1956. But about 15 years later, a group of Quebec business people, baseball people, and municipal government people wanted to be miners people in minor league baseball again. An attempt to purchase an Eastern League franchise for the 73 campaign fell short, but it grew long into the existence of the Thetford Falls Pirates in 74. The next season, the club became a Brewers affiliate and adopted the old Miners moniker. The Miners of the Miners of 75 had Len Cicada, later a major leaguer and still today a legend in the San Francisco Giants player development world. You can read a new story about him by Benjamin Hill this week. But as for the Miners of the Eastern League, Cicada couldn't save them. The Thetford Falls Miners of 75 finished 59-80 and permanently collapsed. And that's how the Miners never grew up. Now, on to the question for next time. Which of these players was positively reptilian in the Miners of yesteryear? A. Croc Smoots. B. Snake Henry. C. Turtle Harris. Want to know the answer? Scale the stacks at your local library. Or tune into the next Goes to the Miners. But for now, you'll have to excuse me. My producer Ben Hill is lifting weights in camouflage, and I've got to try to spot it.
Big thanks as always to Josh Jackson for stopping by on this week's episode of the show before the show. And before we get out of here, it is once again time for the game show craze that is sweeping the nation. This week's episode of Name That Dude, in which Sam, Ben, and I come up with a random baseballer from relatively recent history. And the other guys have to guess. On this week's episode of Name That Dude, Ben will be throwing out the dude. Sam and I will be trying to name that dude. And with that, we turn it over to Benjamin Hill.
Name that dude. I'm standing next to Sam Dykstra, who is diligently shielding his eyes from my computer screen right now.
We got to find somebody to come up with a theme song, by the way, for Name That Dude.
Yeah, we need that. Yeah. Email us any theme song you may happen to write for Name That Dude. And we will use it almost certainly. It doesn't have to be much. Our standards are low. This individual is a native of Warner Robins, Georgia. Born in 1975 and made his his professional debut in the Cleveland Indians organization in 1994 with the Burlington Indians, who now are still in the Appy League, but now they are the Burlington Sock Puppets. So that's how he broke in 1994 with the Burlington Indians. And that ballpark used to have great artwork in the men's rooms over the stalls of great players who had played for them. But I don't think his jersey is in there. He then moved on to the late Columbus Red Sticks. That's the Columbus, Georgia Red Sticks. So he was playing in his home state. And of course, Columbus, Georgia will see the return of minor league baseball in 2025 in the form of the relocated Mississippi Braves.
Also, didn't that have 2 X's at the end? Red Sticks.
A super awkward, very 90s team name. Yeah, R-E-D, all one word, R-E-D, capital S-T-I-X-X, the Columbus Red Sticks. Then 1997, he's moving up the chain. Akron Arrows, they were still called the Arrows. He also played that season for the Carolina League's Kinston Indians, of course, who are now home of the Down East Wood Ducks in their final season at Granger Stadium right now. 98, back to Akron, and then with no time yet in AAA, he made his major league debut with Cleveland in 1998. 1 game. 1999, AAA Buffalo most of the season, a little bit with Cleveland. 2000, split in time between Buffalo and Cleveland. 2001, Cleveland. 2002, starts with Cleveland, moves over to the Cincinnati Reds. 2003, Cincinnati, then some time with Richmond in the Braves organization, who he did not play for at the major league level. And then Milwaukee with the Brewers in 2004 and 2005. The San Diego Padres in 2006. Back to Cleveland briefly in 2007, although he did not play again for the big league. Oh, no. Yeah, back to Cleveland briefly in 2007. He did not play for the big league club. Then the Padres again. Phillies in 2007. Cardinals in 2007. He's really bouncing around at this point.
My guess was Danny Graves.
Not Danny Graves.
That would have been a good guess.
Then Milwaukee 2008. Back to Milwaukee. Seattle 2009. Back to Cleveland organization again for a stint in 2010 with 52 games in the majors. Then to Seattle again.
It's not like Richie Sexson.
It is not.
This is a pitcher? Have we determined a position yet?
Los Angeles Angels, Arizona Diamondbacks in 2011. That was the end of his major league days, but he played in the Yankees minor league system in 2012 and then 3 seasons in Mexico. Then finally going back, he could not quit Cleveland. Played a little bit for the Columbus Clippers in 2014. This guy was really all over the place. Not a pitcher.
Not a pitcher.
Not a pitcher. A major journeyman.
I have a guess. I don't think this is the right answer because I don't think he was playing that recently. But could it be? No, I don't think it is. Jody Garrett was my guess.
Not Jody Garrett. This individual.
I remember thinking, by the way, that Jody Garrett was like, that dude is going to be a star. Didn't quite work out that way.
Not that. This guy was never a star, but he hung around most specifically for his power.
It's not Travis Hafner comes to mind, but I think you would have been
Bronk.
Yeah.
Bronk, the rare big leaguer from was it Travis Hafner from North Dakota? Pretty sure he was. Jamestown, North Dakota.
Okay.
Yeah, he
just thinking of like Cleveland Sluggers from the.
This individual hit, considering how much he bounced around and rarely had like full season footholds in the majors. He had 194 home runs.
What was his season high?
Wow.
In the majors.
High. Wow, in the minors, he had 40 for Columbus in 1996. In the majors, looks like he hit 24 in 2002 between Cincinnati and Cleveland, 26 with the Reds in 2003. I believe those were the major league highs. A couple 20 homer seasons. 25 in 2010 between 2 teams.
No. Did this guy ever play for the Rangers? Sorry.
He never played for the Rangers.
Okay.
He played for many major league organizations, but not. He'd be a good immaculate grid kind of guy. Cleveland, Milwaukee.
I have another guess. Yes. I don't think I'm thinking along the lines of, it's not Adam Dunn, obviously, but the other guy who I always thought of like kind of in lockstep with Adam Dunn, I don't think he bounced around as much, was Austin Kearns.
No, I feel like you're
Austin
all over
Kearns,
the right.
yeah, is a great guess though,
I
Tyler.
feel like you're all over the right type of guys. When Sam said Sexton, like for some reason I always associated this guy and Sexton in terms of just kind of similar type players. You know, big guy, obviously a lot of power, 6'4", 235 pounds.
He played a few years in Mexico as well, eh?
Played third base, first base, and left field. I'm sure he did a share of DHing as well.
Man, this is a good one. This is a good dude.
Yeah, 194 home runs though. So, you know, in the 21st century. So,
was he ever part of like a major trade? How did he go? How did he go from Cleveland to Cincinnati? Other than
probably on the highway. Oh,
dang! Come on.
That's a good question. I cannot find his transactions. It was in 2002, he started with Cleveland and moved on to Cincinnati, spent all of the following season, 2003, with the Reds. But yeah, I do not know the transactions here.
All right, I got one.
Yeah.
He bounces around, but he's another guy I just think of as a Cleveland guy. Russell Brandon?
Ding, ding, ding.
Oh, Russell Brandon. Oh, that was a really good one.
Bang.
Yeah. Oh, that was very good. Now I immediately have to Google Russell Brandon. Russell Brandon, 48 years old now, is Russell Brandon. And yeah, one of those guys who, as Ben noted, 194 career homers, a 232 career hitter, but a 329 on base percentage and a 485 career slugging percentage. 14 big league seasons with, how many different teams is this? 3. That is insane. 10 different teams in 14 years.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. He played parts of 14 seasons in the majors, parts of 15 in the minors, couple seasons in Mexico, 21 season career all told professionally. Oh boy.
Russell Brandon, who knew? Would not have guessed that. Obviously, because I didn't. Sam did.
Yeah, it's 2
but
weeks
it gave
in a
us
row with an RB.
It gave us an opportunity to remember some guys like Austin Kearns and Richie Sexton.
Yeah, Travis Hafner.
Travis Pronk. Amazing. All right, you guys. Well, that'll do it on this week's episode of the show before the show. Huge thanks to the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes and all of the teams for dropping new identities this week. And again, remember, get in touch. Podcast at MiLB.com or tweet at MiLB, at Sam Dykstra, MiLB at Ben's Biz. Let us know your fictional teams that you have conjured up in your head that you are ready for us to dive in and design on. And that'll do it for this week's episode of the show before the show. For Sam Dykstra, Benjamin Hill, Josh Jackson, and all the rest, my name is Tyler Mon. We'll talk to you next week.